What's going on, gamers? We got a huge video here to talk about because the CEO has came out and talked about exclusives again. Day 5 now for me since my brother's passing. I guess I feel a little bit better, but still not a lot better. Thank you for all the support once again. I really appreciate that. Definitely on the community post. You guys have been awesome with that. But there's a lot to talk about here. And then we got a little clip to look at to see what she said. Starting here though, Exorcist as a poster says Asha Sharma on the controversial 30% profit margin that Amy Hood and Satya demanded from Xbox during the last months of Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond. So here's the thing, it was real. It wasn't something that was actually made up. They really did demand that, and that's how much money they want back. I think this is quite clear, right? No doubt about that. But this is where it gets even more interesting. My goal is not to reach 30% profit margins. That's a smart reply. Nor enterprise software margins, but to be the #1 company in the video games and entertainment sector. And that's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's stop right here because that's a bold statement. That's just as insane as the 30% profit margin, because I don't think she understands the position of Xbox by saying that. She's saying she's going to do a much better job than Phil Spencer did in the past, and they're going to be #1 over Nintendo and PlayStation. The #1 company in the video games and entertainment sector. How are you going to turn around hardware? How are you going to outsell PlayStation? How is your games going to outsell Nintendo exclusives? Even outsell PlayStation exclusives over time, like in totality. Your publishing is going to need to be #1 too. And your brand identity is going to have to be just as strong as Nintendo and Sony's. And she says, and that's what we're going to do. She made that statement. We're actually going to do that. I don't know what to tell you about that, because she has a long way to go. Now, let's get ready to take a look at the clip that she said this in too. We can take a look at some comments real quick. Stando says, if your goal is not to have profits, we're off to a bad start. Correct, because she says, my goal is not to reach 30% profit margins. That's what it's going to take. Nor enterprise software margins. What are you talking about? Software is the most important thing in the video game industry. And of course, you need hardware too to have an install base. And then you need exclusives and an identity. So why would your goal not to be is to have the enterprise software margins be at the highest? Because that means you're dominating. But to be the #1 company, I feel like this statement is kind of a little bit of a confusion statement without her even realizing that. Translation, we want cash. The users and their exclusives can eat crap, basically what this guy is saying. So, I mean, guys, let's get to this post because I'm like, oh, we got a lot to look to right here. So here's where it starts. Are we ready? Ready, y'all? Here it is right here.
It's a tough topic. Look, we're the #2 publisher in the world, and in order to be a great
Number
publisher,
two.
you must have your games reach large audiences to play. At the same time, we're increasingly becoming a platform. In order to be a platform, you must have exclusive content and services. And so,
What do you mean you're increasingly becoming a platform? That doesn't make any sense when you can't even outsell the Switch 1. The Xbox was already a platform in the original Xbox and the 360 era. It's
we're looking at that very closely, I think. And so, we're looking at that very to be a platform, you must have exclusive content and services. And so we're looking at that very closely. I think that we have to be very thoughtful about each title on how we want to think about it and learn from similar cases in the industry. And that's what we're doing. It's a tough.
Well, she brought up exclusives again. You need exclusive content and services. Here we go with exclusives again. But you're correct. You do need that if you want to be #1. But you're giving people hope again that exclusives are coming back again. And we've already talked about that. If you want to have exclusives for Xbox, you need to have a hardware install base that's big enough to support them. Even Sony with the PS6 is not going to launch the PS6. They could have all those exclusives. I want you to think about this. All those exclusives coming in the first year are going, think about this, all right? I'm saying this again. Even Sony launching the PS6, and it could have a ton of exclusives only on PlayStation 6, are not going to do that because they're not going to have the early install base, and they're not going to think that that's going to be able to sell hotcakes and support itself. It's going to be cross-gen on PS5. And PS5 Pro will be able to be played on the PlayStation handheld. How could Microsoft do exclusives for the Helix unless it was going to sell just like the PlayStation 6? And it would have to be cross-gen between the Helix, the Xbox Series X and S, and be able to support itself. Now, if you're saying you're including Steam, then that's not an Xbox exclusive because you're putting it on another platform. Steam is not Xbox. Steam is Steam. You know what I mean? Like, Nintendo is truly exclusive because they don't put any game on any other platform, period. Unless it's like some spin-off or something somewhere, but you kind of get what I mean. Like, all their games are there. Smash Brothers never went anywhere else. So Sony making all their single-player games exclusive means that it's only going to be playing on PlayStation 5. It can't be on Steam. Then it's not a PlayStation exclusive fully. But it'll just be a console exclusive in the console world. But going to Steam, that's not the case. But not only does Microsoft have to follow that route, because you would have to make Helix have powerful exclusives, but they would have to, like I said, have a base that could sell well. If you have Game Pass there still getting those games day one, you've already tanked the entire market. So you're going to have to change the entire structure of Game Pass. And Helix is going to have an affordable model. But even then, people on Game Pass that have been on there for years and on Xbox have been trained not to feel like they need to pay for a game unless they want to. Like a Forza Horizon is a game where I feel like, yeah, no matter what, that game is going to sell. But it only gave you a 12% profit increase or hardware sales increase in the UK. But what was the numbers you were selling in the UK actually? Let's say if it was like 30,000, 20,000, not even, 15,000. What's 12% of that? There's something like 1,500 to 2,000 more. You see what I mean? We got to look at something that's like more massive worldwide. This is the problem here. We know exclusives are important and that Microsoft should have never left that. What they should have done is never put their huge games day one on Game Pass. There should have been like a 6-month window or something. And if you wanted to go to Steam, sure, but to PlayStation, you should have did 6 months if you ever wanted to try that. But even then, I mean, it's a tough thing because Sony was never going to put any main tentpole titles that are single player on Xbox, which you notice they put them on Steam. For a specific reason, they don't have hardware. And the Steam machine is not going to be a threat. And they did it way later when it was like, okay, Xbox is done now. It's not going to sell any more hardware. If Microsoft was going to take the exclusives serious also, Forza Horizon should have had bundles and the hardware should have been dropped by at least $100 before the launch worldwide. Why didn't you do that? And when it comes to the showcase, why would you not say, okay, Xbox hardware is now going to be dropped by $100 than what it is now? And then put it on sale for like the Series X, like $500 in the holidays or $450 with some Game Pass in there. Series S, $300 to $250 before GTA comes out. Like, you have to do stuff like that. If you want to move an install base and then carry that over to the Helix, like, other than that, I don't see how exclusives could be brought up because we talked about this before. You're going to kill your publishing. And if you're saying you want to be the number one publisher or you're the number two publisher, by putting exclusives on your consoles, all you're going to do is kill your publishing. And now you're saying you want to be the number one publisher because obviously you didn't say anything about software. You're just talking about publisher, right? Well, obviously you need to sell to be the number one publisher. Talking about software, like, if we're not focusing on software, what do you mean? If you don't have that, what do you have? How are you going to publish? How are you going to be a strong publisher? So if you go exclusive and kill your publishing, now you have literally destroyed almost everything you have left, and the only thing that's left is to try to recover that. You've been trying to do that with every other sector and focus on Game Pass, but that would have to be cheaper than what it is. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see how you would want to turn around Xbox to be the number one gaming platform in the industry over Nintendo and PlayStation. Even in the 360 era, you couldn't even come close to selling Nintendo numbers. Nobody never could. How are you going to be number one over Nintendo? That's crazy. Like, when you say that, remember, when you say number one, that means you're dominating publishing, you're dominating development, you're dominating software sales, and you're dominating hardware sales. If you're just saying you want to be the number one publisher, they already kind of tried to monopolize for that to show that. And try to say, oh, now we grabbed Call of Duty so that we could just put our name on it to make it feel like we're number one. No, to be number one, you have to show it. Like, it shows that you're really that good. You can get all your studios to grow. You can make everybody want to stay with you. You can make people actually want to be acquired by you, and they would all get better. Everybody would start selling better. Microsoft does not do that. Now, I'm trying to figure out how you would come into that world and make it seem like that and make that arrogant statement, and that's what we're going to do. Like, I feel like you're brainwashing and giving people more hopium when you have years of work to do before that can even be reflected. There's nothing wrong with having confidence and having hope, but saying you're going to be number one is not a good statement. Just saying, I want to work very hard to see if I can get this brand up and be back in the race. And then we want to talk about being number one, you got to start showing it. Then you kind of say that statement. You know, like Hunter saying, Xbox CEO Asher Sharma exclusive, we're the number 2 publisher in the world, but where are those facts at? And in order to be a great publisher, you must have your games reach large audiences to play. But see, you say that, but then you talk about exclusives. She then mentions Xbox as a platform and needs exclusive content and services. Large audiences. That's all over. All your biggest games that are coming out this year, Halo, those should have multiplayer, Gears of War, Forza, right? Call of Duty, they're all going multi-platform. So what could you have that's coming out that would be bigger than your biggest games coming out this year? This is what I think people don't understand. Call of Duty is now going to Nintendo Switch. You saw that Modern Warfare 2 is coming to Switch too. And you have a 10-year contract. So when you think about exclusives, how if your biggest franchise that you monopolized and paid $70 billion for is not going to be exclusives over the next 10 years? 1 year has already passed. So that means from 2026, we got to go to like 2035. But Xbox hardware still be around by then? Let's be realistic here. She's still going to be around. Is the gaming industry still going to be like that? You see? Because right now, Sony is always going to outsell you. The closest thing you probably had was that Forza launch with that little window with the 12% increase. GTA, they got the marketing rights. Nintendo's going to consistently outsell both of you now. And Sony's liable to do deals, and they got a lot of games coming out. You have games coming out as well too, but not anything to move your hardware, only to make your publishing stronger. What you should be trying to do is aim for the number 1 publisher. But you're going to have to outsell Nintendo on multiple platforms. Because if they drop a whole bunch of games, then I think their next year is going to be better than this year. They're definitely with Pokemon Wind and Waves coming out. It's going to be insane. When you got all that going on, it's like, yeah, you could be a great publisher if you do your job and just continue doing what Phil Spencer and them already set up. It's not like you did any of that monopoly. No, they monopolized to get Bethesda. They monopolized to get Activision. Then you lost $300 million on Game Pass. You should have never put Call of Duty on Game Pass. So like I was saying, to turn around things and to make that statement like you're going to be number 1, I don't see how that's going to be possible. I'm just being realistic here. I wonder who told you to say that, or are you saying that yourself? Because wants to be the number 1 gaming and entertainment company by 2030 is pretty much insane. We'll keep investing. We've got work to do. We're not in a healthy spot. And so the next 100 days is going to be about resetting the business. So we see that. Let's read some comments here, though. There's absolutely no reason this can't happen. They have the studios. They have more games in production than the competitors combined. They need to lock exclusives and third-party exclusives ASAP. Enough with the BS. There's no way I can imagine them ever going back to exclusivity now. Xbox needs revenue from PlayStation, Phil Spencer admits. Xbox boss Phil Spencer has once again explained Microsoft's decision to release select Xbox games on PlayStation, stating in no uncertain terms that the gaming division needs revenue from more platforms to remain viable. That's pretty funny. Yeah, well, you don't get there by going back to full exclusivity with a 30 million base. This is what I was saying, which the majority only play through a service. So I wouldn't hold out much hope for anything more than timed exclusivity on smaller titles. Possibly, yeah. Anything they know will be sellers will be on everything because you need that profit. Like I say, if you spend 150 million or 200 million on a game like Gears or something, are you going to get that back only on Xbox? That's what I said. You'd be losing money and your publishing will not pop up on the NPDs or in the worldwide charts because you're not getting that PlayStation install base business. You're not getting the Nintendo business platform. You're not getting the Steam business, meaning their install bases combined together is more than yours, like times 10. Because like if you add Sony's 100 and something million install base monthly, Nintendo's 100 something million install base monthly, Steam, and then you look at Xbox, and it's like, yeah, why would you not want that on those markets? We're just talking about neutral business here. And you trying to go back exclusive, your consoles would have to want to be bought. Otherwise, you're trapping it in that install base that is basically programmed with Game Pass. Then you would lose hundreds of millions of dollars. Studios would get shut down and get fired. You would destroy everything. See, there's a gamble here. And we talked about this before. So if she wants to talk about exclusivity, then what do you mean by that? Because I'm telling you, I think it means the Forza situation at best with Steam. It's not coming to PlayStation immediately. I don't know. I think there's some games you can't do that with. Like Call of Duty, you cannot pass up on PlayStation. And you already have a contract. So your biggest game, like I said, is never going to be exclusive. Outside of that, what can you do? Your biggest game after that is what? Forza? And it's actually their title. It's already coming to PlayStation. Gears is coming to PlayStation. Halo is coming to PlayStation. There's no multiplayer. State of Decay 3 is coming to PlayStation, I'm telling you. So what IP did they name? Fable's coming to PlayStation. You see what I mean? All your biggest games are already going to PlayStation. So after that, what are you going to do? It'll take years to try to get that to work, and that would have to be with the Helix. So I don't see how that's going to manifest. That's just my statement on this. And you saying you're going to be the #1 gaming company? How when you can't even outsell the Switch 1? That's what I don't get. The last CEO said that they lost the console wars. The current CEO says that they are not in a healthy spot. The fanboy said that Xbox is better than ever. With exclusives, they will become another developer. Sad but true. It happened to Sega. It will happen to Xbox if they do not change. I assume the current #1 has other plans. If they to be #1, reduce Game Pass price, reduce Xbox consoles, reduce price of video games to $60, some of them $50. They're digital. Yeah, produce amazing high quality games. And you're going to have to sell and get to like 70 million hardware install base. Helix is going to have to sell more than the Series X S and be exclusive. Guys, how? When it's going to be like $1,200, $1,500? We're not seeing consoles launch anymore at like $400, $299, $500. Even $500 was crazy when the Series X launched and the PlayStation 5. But that was absolutely a really good deal when you think about the technology that was in there for that price. And Sony had the $399 digital. Switch 1 launched at $299. Then the Series S was $299. Microsoft at least had that. You'll never see that again. So how could you have the install base to support exclusivity? This is always something you need to think about. And those titles need to move your hardware to sell millions and millions of hardware when they drop. Like, it needs to be that good. You're going to have to outdo what you're having this year in the future. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Become a member. Leave a tip down below if you want. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for everything. Support. Like I said, I'm going to be doing this day by day. 2 videos is probably the most I can do. Later, y'all. Keep on gaming no matter what platform you're on.